Arafoe wam akwaba at the back #1 channel and news akoso ene de epa ewo man no ye ko ne kohwehwe na papa no yaso ne so na e de abram na mehu na mate de akoso ne de epa ewo man no na ha Ghanatube so na mamu nim say training news akoso o Ghana ha say esese adafo eten de kofa e de abram no omunso omate ndi yenkwe ne ngotie yenkohwe ensem akoso ene de epa ewo man no.
And all that, still staying with the matters of the court, this time around the judiciary, essentially. The president, John Dramani Mahama, earlier today, and that's coming up next, swore in the 7 judges who have been appointed to the Supreme Court, asking that they uphold fairness, acknowledge family support, and then also ensure that the confidence in the judiciary is restored. And this was earlier today. The presidency, President John Dramani Mahama, urged the newly appointed justices of the Supreme Court to rise above procedural formalities and dedicate themselves to delivering real justice for Ghanaians. Speaking at the swearing-in ceremony earlier today, the 7 new Supreme Court justices at the Jubilee House, the president reminded the judges that their elevation to the highest court comes with both legal and moral responsibilities that transcend technical interpretations of the law. Take a look.
For some of us, up to today, has been exceptionally long. You have the faith and confidence that this day will arrive. Finally, it has arrived. The dreadful questions that our children ask, Daddy, this time to your name hasn't come on the list. Today is over.
Well, so that's Justice Senor Dzamefe earlier. And that statement that he made also then led to some conversation. We'll come back to it shortly. But let's hear exactly what the president said earlier today. Take a look.
It is a symbol of service, humility, and accountability. Wear it with wisdom. Interpret the law not just as it is, but as it ought to be, alive to context and sensitive to the lived realities of the Ghanaian people. Speak through your judgments, not your opinions. Show leadership through principle, not preference. Let your legacy be measured in volumes of law reports, the lives you touched, the precedents you set, and the public trust that you preserved.
Well, that's the president there. Let's hear Justice Senor Dzamefe, who spoke for and on behalf of his other colleagues who today were sworn in by the president. But then again, there's a statement that he made, a piece of it which you just heard a few minutes ago, about how some of their family members and even lawyers, friends at the bench were asking, whenever there were previous instances of justices being appointed by previous presidents to the Supreme Court, there's always a question about when his name was going to come up. Then there was a fundamental question as to whether there is no prescribed guideline as to how justices are appointed to the Supreme Court, which of course we know is in the Constitution. But is there anything more than that in terms of consideration as to who the president will appoint to the Supreme Court? Take a listen to this.
For some of us, up to today, has been exceptionally long. You have the faith and confidence that this day will arrive. Finally, it has arrived. The dreadful questions that our children ask, Daddy, this time to your name hasn't come on the list. Today is over.
Well, this particular comment and also the applause that it received, and in fact, for Justice Senor Dzamefe, as he indicated, for him and many others who align, is his record as longest serving, at least, is the one that cannot be contested at any point. But then again, why is it the case that if seniority is a factor in terms of the consideration of the president appointing justices to the Supreme Court, why did it have to, as he indicated, have to wait this long?
for any tea for and some I also any the epa or man and edika edit no and I say we need a gusu our tree and my share pass a wooty and hydrogen tray out or a fast and some moja fair Eddie Amame our comment section. Young Gwen, near good tea in some near Etwason.
What other considerations beyond the dictates of Article 128 of the 1992 Constitution that prescribes exactly the procedures that the president has to consider, and in fact, it has to go by in appointing justice to the Supreme Court? Specific detail of Article 128 of the 1992 Constitution. Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. He's joining us right now on Zoom for a conversation. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us right now. But is there any specific consideration or convention, as it were, that guides the president in consultation with the Council of State and then also the Judicial Council in appointing justices to the Supreme Court? Reason why persons who are senior than others would not be appointed, and others who are junior will be appointed over and above the seniors. What goes into this?
Okay, yes, there is the constitutional provision that stipulates what or the criteria the president should use in appointing Supreme Court justices. But naturally, beyond the Constitution, there are other factors that you won't find written down rigidly. So we'll come to that, but let's start with the Constitution. So Article 128 of the Constitution basically provides that the president will look at for the candidate, for a person that the president intends to appoint to the Supreme Court, he should have a high moral character. That's one. Then two, proven integrity. And then three, not below 15 years, or in other words, at least 15 years standing as a lawyer. Okay, so these are the basic criteria, right? That's a hard letter of the law. Of course, there are other things that though you don't see strictly, because it's public service, they say should not have been convicted, okay, of an offense involving fraud. Those things, yes, naturally they come to play. Yes, because Justice Amoe's case, when he was convicted of an offense involving fraud, he was removed. So that's a Supreme Court decision. So there are those certain criminal offenses too that if the person has such a criminal record, the person is disqualified. And now let's come to the other critical decider, which is that is where often maybe you find it as the greatest factor. Presidents tend to choose candidates that they find share their own philosophies. So you hear some judges are conservatives, you hear others are liberal, okay? Then break it further. You hear some judges like the policies of the MPP, others like the policies of the NDC. Those are very, very, very critical factors to get in. You can't run away. I mean, don't forget last year when Chief Justice Tokonu wrote to President Kufuor to appoint 5 more justices. We did the analysis. We said all these things. These are very critical. So put it in plain words. A president want to choose a person that believes in his philosophies. They share the same ideologies. So let's take the US example, the recent ones. You see, when Trump was campaigning to be elected, his first term, not this one, he told people in America that if they voted for him, he would appoint the kind of justices who would cancel Roe versus Wade. And lo and behold, Justice Comey, the Catholic judge, of course, usually most of the Supreme Court judges in the US for a long time, these were Catholics. Yeah, Comey, the lady, is Catholic, and etc. And you see, when the case went to court, eventually Roe versus Wade, that's the abortion case, the case that made abortion generally legal in the US, right, was struck down. And this is a case that for decades, since the 70s, people have gone to court year in, year out, trying to overthrow it. It didn't work. But Trump promised voters that if they voted for him, he would choose the right kind of justices who share in the ideology that that's pro-life, the pro-life ideology. That is say, don't kill babies. Baby, once a woman conceives, it is life. You can never say that it only the fetus becomes life after certain weeks or no. For them, once you've conceived, that is life. So you see that example where a presidential candidate says something and he is given the mandate, then he goes to find the candidates, the Supreme Court justices who fit that bill, and boom, it is done. Yes, they are bolder because naturally, they are an advanced society, so they are able to do certain things more than we do. Otherwise, we are still a bit shy about some of these things. That's a typical example for you. We could go on and on and on, right? So in the same way in Ghana, when Akufo-Addo was president, we choose people that he tended to think would be favorable, have his to his policies, have his own they share in his philosophy, etc. So that's it. And the same manner, President Mahama would also choose in such a
Michelle and now a friend, Ghanatube, so